do when you want to make a mask like that is you can look at your channels. So if I bring up my channels palette, I could look at the channels and see if I can use any of those for a mask, okay? So what I'm doing is I'm trying to see, is there much difference between, you know, my little guys on the rock here and the background. So the red channel doesn't work very well. Green channel is not very helpful. But the blue channel might work, okay? So let's just see if we can do this. I haven't tried this before with this image, but I'm going to make a copy of that. And then I'm just going to do Command L, or image adjust level. So it's not a levels adjustment layer, it's just tweaking the tonal values here, okay? So what I want to do is try to make the stuff in the foreground really dark and the stuff in the background brighter. Okay, so I can certainly do it for the sky and those mountains. The problem is that these guys are not that different than these guys. So let's see. Well, that'll probably work. Let's try that. So I'll say OK, and then what I'm going to do is just go to Brush, and I'm going to pick 100% brush, and just pick a nice big brush here, and type D and X, which gives me black. Okay, so I'll just make all this stuff black here. All right, so I'm just going to sort of just do that, see what happens, okay? So now what I'm going to do is Command click on this, which means load selection, or turn the white or the non-black parts into a selection, and then I'll come back over here, and then I have this curve that I just made for the background. So what I want to do is apply that selection to that curve, okay? So I don't really need my channels palette anymore. So I can just say save selection, and I can say background, blue copy. No, that's not right. Oh, I know what's wrong. This needs to be on here. Okay. Save selection. Oh, background mask. Okay, I called that background. That's what's confusing. Okay, there we go. Okay, so what it did is it put that in there. Okay, so that worked reasonably okay. All right. So when you're doing that, though, if you look at the edge, you may find that it's, you can sort of see a little edge there, okay? And if you look at the mask, well, that's actually a reasonably soft edge. But what usually works, it doesn't hurt to Gaussian blur it a little bit. So if you go into Filter, Blur, Gaussian blur, or in my case I just do Shift F4, then I'm just going to blur that edge a little bit, and what that does is it tends to just blend it in a little bit more, okay? So if there's any sharp spots on the mask, it'll just blend them in better, okay? Okay, so now that I've got all of that done, I don't know, the whole thing is looking a little dark to me, so I might decide to go back to my levels adjustment and just, open it up a little bit. Okay, and then I have these other two steps up here, so let me show you those real quickly. Okay, so on the burn and dodge, now what that one is it's a layer that's just filled with 50% gray. So if you set the blend mode to normal, then you just get 50% gray. But if you set it to soft light, and in fact all the ones in this group here, 50% gray on a layer will be totally ignored, okay? So then what you can do is, again, go into the brush and go back to the little airbrush, And if you type a D for default colors, you know, on a mask you get white, but you'll notice here I actually get black for my foreground color, okay? So when you're working on a mask, a D for default colors will give you white as the foreground color, but when you're on a regular layer, it gives you black. Okay, so now what I can do, usually for this step what I'll actually do is I'll just hit the Tab key and then I'll just do Command 0 so I can sort of see my whole image. And then, you know, if I can just go around the edge, so if I want to burn and dodge the edge a little bit, you know, I can just do that, okay? If I want to focus the light, I can do that a little bit. Okay. You know, if I wanted to burn in that sky a little bit more, I could, you know, pull it across there. And then if you overdo it, like that corner I've overdone it a little bit, you can just type in X for exchange, and then you're painting with white and you're going the other way, okay? By the way, the left bracket key makes your brush smaller, right bracket key makes your brush bigger. So I could also, you know, tweak these a little bit. You know, if I want to make that guy a little bit lighter, I could do that. You don't want to do major changes with this because you know, your image things will start looking a bit flat. But if you just do really subtle adjustments, you can get away with it with the burn and dodge tool. Okay, and then I can just sort of show you before and after on that. Okay, so that's, you know, before, that's after, okay? And then the way the crop layer works is if you want to try a different crop, you go to the crop layer, and again, I could just do that. And I could type an M for marquee. Okay, and let's say I want to crop some of the sky out, okay? So I can start the crop. Now let's say I get to here and I decide, well, I really want to crop more of the sky out than that. If you don't want to start your marquee over again, if you hold the space bar down while you're still holding the mouse down, you can actually change your origin location, okay? And then you release the space bar and you can continue. So let's say I don't want that last little C line in there, I'll crop him out. And say I want to do something like that. Okay. So this is basically a non-destructive crop. Okay, so you use the marquee and then you turn this layer on, and what you want to do is Option or Alt click on the little thing to add a mask, and then what happens is you know, that just shows you your crop. Okay, so there's before, there's after. Okay, so you can sort of do a crop without actually cropping it, so you can have, you know, your master image with several different crops if you want, okay? I mean, I could add a different crop layer. I could use my little artist keys. So if I'm in button mode, I can just see them. So I have one called crop layer. Do you guys see that one? Oh, there it is. Yeah, so if I just click on that, it'll make one of those, okay? So like if I wanted to have a vertical crop, you know, say I wanted to, you know, have a different usage of this image where I was just showing, you know, these guys here, for example, then I could have a different crop layer for that. Okay, so if I want to use, you know, that crop, then I can just do that, and if I want to use the other crop, I can do that, okay? So then, let me talk about sharpening. Okay, so to use the crop for sharpening, what I do is I'll go over to Channels palette. We don't actually need that anymore. And I'll click on the crop that I'm going to use, and I'll make a copy of that. And then I'll invert that, okay?